morning from Yummy BTV, wishing you all well, of course. So sorry we have to go back into that fateful day of late July last year when the Southport killer went on the absolute rampage and murdered a few of our children and injured many more, and injured also with life-threatening injuries some other adult members of the public as well. Now, at the time of what we was waiting for in January of a supposed trial that was going to go ahead to either give us some kind of closure or to why he went and did what he did. We didn't really want to be hearing about all the graphic details of some of the injuries and maiming that he did, but it would have been a feature undoubtedly, and it comes to light since he decided to plead guilty, probably manipulated by the courts in some way to spare everybody the graphic details, not sticking up for them because we believed that we were denied, many of us thought, from knowing what absolutely took place without the hearsays and what might have been, and that, but for the first time anyway, the surviving victims of those atrocities and some of the witnesses that witnessed different parts to what took place that day in Southport at a dance class, yoga, stroke, other classes taken by a lady called Leanne Lucas. And that day, another little young girl, 13, 14-year-old, they're calling her Sarah to protect her identity, allowed by the courts for obvious reasons, to keep her safe, being so young, to have witnessed such the trauma, speak out for the first time on a BBC TV programme with the description of that, where you can watch it yourself. And I'll just give you a little bit of insight into what you are going to watch. Many of you probably watched it already. Some might not know. So Sarah explained she was helping Heidi and Leanne Lucas run that class that day, right? Extra help. Now, Leanne Lucas saw the Southport killer walking by the window and thinking, who's that? Don't know him, right? Sarah, the young 13-year-old, was one of the first to get stabbed, life-threatening injury. She thought she was dying. Someone was saying to her, no, you're going to make it, trying to talk her through. But she was trying to help others as she was running in blind panic. Leanne, the same, was doing the best she can, running about as children being stabbed, grabbing children. When he walked in, we knew that he grabbed 1, 2, 3 children, and immediately Leanne was thinking, well, what are you doing? And then it became apparent that he was a raving fruit crate, but very much in control of what he was doing. Now, some of the things you're going to hear are very harrowing and gut-wrenching and heartbreaking, that an 8-year-old was hiding in a cupboard to seek sanctuary away from the madness. A 10-year-old was down the bottom of the stairs talking to some of the children that got away and trying to explain to them that don't worry too much, your parents will be here soon. Leanne gets outside the latter stages of saving as many as she could. She couldn't save the initial 3 that, rest in peace, that she had no chance to really, because it had already unfolded before she could catch on to what she was witnessing. Shock can do that to you. She runs out, she sees a geezer in a car, I think his name was Joe, and she says, look, there's a man in there stabbing. He runs in, confronts the attacker. I thought it was going to be the last day of his life. A man next door was building a wall, and he describes screams he's used to hearing, playful screams in his life. He's used to hearing nightmare screams as well, so he could differentiate and distinguish that these weren't play screams that he was hearing from that nursery stroke classroom. They were the stuff of screams that come from real nightmares, so he immediately goes into action as well. And a description of the parents running in after hearing what's going on, to wonder if it's their children that have Sarah's dad got there, and then her mum got there. They were on the show as well last night, and sitting there with Sarah, who's obviously going to be traumatized. There's no one that could have ever witnessed or experienced such madness especially at a young age or whatever age, that it's going to be haunting, seeing his face forever, seeing the deaths around him and all the madness, all the maiming, all the graphic details that now we are open to hearing since these events took place. But one of the shocking things that really, I suppose, not surprised me, I know that trolls exist out there, and I don't take them too seriously no more. I did when I first was released and I got into social media. But how could it be, for one, that you can get trolls blaming Leanne and Sarah, saying that, you know, some, how come you save some but not the other three? If that classroom wouldn't have taken place and you wouldn't have advertised it, those children might have been alive today. Wow. So what are we meant to do then? Not advertise anything for anybody, not just children, but for all things. But I'm not going to get into what trolls who say disgusting and really truly things that just don't make any sense. It's not about what we're talking about. But a lot of people over the years, and all my years, victims during crimes and heroes that did their best in during situations and others in other crimes as well, often find, and I've done it too, where I blame myself that maybe on certain things I could have done a little bit better. And I wish, like Leanne says, that I wish I wouldn't have even advertised the class. I wish that I didn't even... They hold some guilt when really it's not their guilt to hold, but the human brain is like this. You do find things with such tragedy and other things. For them to come out and be doing all that is just another... And what it is as well, right, which was a very, very sad thing as far as I'm concerned for young Sarah, the 13-year-old, to say, I saw the good and the bad, or Leanne, both of them said it, the good and bad in people that day. But then I saw the good of all the communities coming together, to pay the respects and love. But that's all right, the good and bad. But yet, when people were protesting and doing it peacefully and doing it in that way, they ended up in prison or with charges to, you know, protest. All right, some aggressive, some violent, whatever, but they end up in prison for doing it. But yet you could be trolling somebody that is severely traumatized by the things that took place on that day. But we haven't, unless you lot are telling me more, that we haven't heard of any of that kind of trolling on victims who suffered life-threatening injuries, who witnessed horrific murders. We haven't heard about any of them going to court. I mean, how can their comments be allowed to get on social media? And how come you can't, with all the technology you got, you can't track them down? But is there any closure by this program? It does do what many of us wanted, I suppose, and hear it firsthand from the people that was there. Very difficult to take in and hearsay and what it could actually feel like for one of the worst atrocities to ever hit our country. But there is nothing more worse than being the actual people that witnessed it and probably will relive and see it for the rest of their lives.